25. Now, save that date in your diaries for future reference, because today is the day which SALVO has finally announced that it has delivered the Scottish petition for decolonisation to the Secretary General of the United Nations in New York. And I believe this happened last Friday. SALVO put out a press release last night indicating all the details of what this means for Scotland. But I thought it's worth marking the occasion today because, at least to my mind, this is probably the most important document that any Scottish representative has presented to the international community in the last 3 centuries. Being a country which is effectively a colony at the moment, and yet unable to use our own right to self-determination, is a unique situation for any country. In fact, I believe Scotland is the only country on the planet which does not have this unique human right. In fact, it's not even unique, it is a universal human right to self-determination. We, according to the English government, have the right to self-determination, but also according to the English government, we don't have the right to exercise that right. So they're basically denying us the democratic apparatus to use our self-determination. Now, why is all of this important? Well, as you know, up until now, our politicians in Holyrood have been unable or unwilling, or both, to do anything to further the cause of Scotland's emancipation, its freedom from this forced union, the one which was allegedly represented to the UN by the UK as a voluntary union. We all know it's not voluntary, because if it were voluntary, we could voluntarily leave it. But we're not being allowed to exercise that right to that choice. And this petition seeks to correct a wrong that has been in existence for 300 years, where the rest of the world believes that Scotland is a voluntary part of the United Kingdom, and that we willingly went into this, and that we all got a vote on it. We all decided that we wanted it. Now, some people have argued that the decision that resulted from the 2014 referendum, where the Scots, very strangely, after having reached over 50%, 51% in fact, of the Scots population in favour of independence just days before the vote, suddenly saw the vote collapse to just 45%. And this was a mystery to almost all of us, but it wasn't a surprise. I dare say most of us were expecting something of the kind, because we knew that referendum was not being fairly run, and we also knew that the 3 English parties, including the then British government, broke their own purdah rules in the last few days of the referendum campaign to announce a new strategy, which was illegal and should have resulted in the referendum being annulled, the result being annulled, and the whole thing being rerun, and yet it wasn't. So requesting new status, or a status change at the UN, is a huge step. And because SALVO has put together such a convincing case, it's very likely that the UN will look favourably on this. And I think it's also now time for SALVO, and perhaps Liberation Scot, or Liberation Scotland as it's more easily said, to actually start making some back-channel approaches to other UN nations. Knowing now that this petition has been delivered to the UN and that it will be considered, we now really need to seek the support of other UN nations in support of our assertion that we should be decolonised, as we are a de facto colony. Whether England calls it that or not, we are exactly a perfect fit for the UN definition of a colony. So if this happens, and we have to hope that it does now, the countdown has now started. But this is something which our own government should have done many, many years ago, and yet they didn't. Perhaps they felt they couldn't, perhaps they were threatened that if they did, there would be trouble for them personally, or for their parties, or for the rest of the country in general. Whatever the reason, the people themselves have finally taken that step. Now, this petition represents the views, at the moment at least, of an estimated 17,000 SALVO and Liberation Scotland members who back this petition. Now, it could have been more than that, but we also know that the sign-up procedures for Liberation Scotland were deliberately spoofed and disrupted by the United Kingdom spooks. 300 spoof sites were set up to basically lead people away from signing up to Liberation Scotland because the British state viewed it as such a threat to the continued existence of the Union. And so it's not reached the levels that was expected of it. However, that doesn't matter. What matters is that the petition has been delivered and it's now with the UN in New York. And that can't be taken back now. The British government can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. So what happens next? Well, in a few months' time, we should hear from the UN, and there will be, this motion will actually need to be discussed at the UN amongst all the member states about whether Scotland does qualify for decolonisation or not. And I believe that the criteria are filled so completely by Scotland that it fits into the definition so perfectly that nobody could come to any other conclusion. Once that is achieved and decolonisation status is set, then the United Kingdom actually needs to take action. It will be forced to by the UN. And that is something which the Scottish Government would have had no power to make happen, and no political force in Scotland officially, no political party or government or group of MSPs or MPs could ever have done what SALVO and its members have done last week. This is a vital piece of history being written as we speak. And I don't want to over-egg this pudding, but to my mind, this is one of the most important days in the 300-year history of the United Kingdom, and it's vital for Scotland now. Now, I made a comparison in the preamble to this programme, the written blurb at the beginning, about what's happening in Greenland right now. As you may know, Donald Trump has made some noises about taking over Greenland and making it into presumably the 52nd state if they overrun Canada as well. Now, the Greenlanders are having, or I think they're having a vote actually right now. But it is known that one of the nationalist groups in Greenland, which wants to secede from control by Denmark, is actually keen to do a deal with the United States. So they're actually seeking independence for Greenland in order to make a deal with the United States. In Scotland, we have, I suppose, the opposite kind of view. We are seeking independence from England so that we don't end up being the 51st state or part of an Anglo-American puppet state, which we currently appear to be. And Scotland, and I think Scots generally, have a wish, if not to return to full membership of the European Union, at least to join the European Free Trade Association, so that we have what effectively we had back in 1974, which was known as the Common Market, which was an international trading agreement with Europe, which allowed us to trade in and out of the 28 nations, I think it will be, when Scotland rejoins, without let or hindrance, without tariffs, without trade barriers, and also for free travel and for the purposes of educational exchange, all of which we lost because of England voting for Brexit. So for Scotland at the moment, to be decolonised, even if it takes 10 years, but as long as it happens, we have the opportunity to rewrite our trading agreements with the European Union, which would benefit Scotland enormously and link us up with 28 other states, and also give us the kind of heft that we need to compete in a global environment. Remember, the European Union, despite what Donald Trump or anyone else says, has actually got an awful lot more power than even the United States in terms of commerce. And being a part of that group of countries which can trade independently with each other without taxation, without tariffs, would be a major advantage for a country as bright and as innovative as Scotland is. Anyway, that is it from Inde-Car today. I just wanted to bring you this news. I know that Grousebeater has already released a part of a press release as well, and I will put up other links to the SALVO press release later on today. Incidentally, I'm having a short crowdfunder. I'll put up some links for you if you wish to support Inde-Car. I don't need a great deal of money at the moment, but because of a change in the way Inde-Car is done, I'm now making 1 or 2 IndyCar shows a week, but because I'm doing my joint show with Norrie Hunter every Friday morning and that lasts an hour, that is effectively taking up 3 IndyCar shows in the making of the Hodma Jacob programme on Friday. So there's been a little bit of realignment, and because of that, I've actually lost a little bit of the financial underpinnings that I normally would have for IndyCar. So I'm just asking if anybody has a little bit of spare cash to make a small donation. I'm not talking about thousands of pounds here, just 50, 60 pounds would make all the difference each week. Anyway, that is it from IndyCar today. It's a historic day. We should all remember this day as being the start of something good. And let's hope that the United Nations take Scotland's side in this, and also that we do gain the support of several other UN members, because that's going to be vital later on in the process. That's it from IndyCar today. Keep following the show and keep the faith, and I'll see you again probably Friday morning with Norrie Hunter on Hodma Jacob programme at 9:30. Bye for now.